Let me begin with something that sounds almost too simple to be serious. Look around you for a moment, not just at the big things, the sky, the stars, the earth, but at the small things too. Your hands, your coffee cup, even the thoughts moving through your head. Everything is spinning. The earth is spinning. Planets are spinning. Stars are spinning. Galaxies are spinning. And if you keep going smaller, much smaller, atoms spin, particles spin, even empty space, in a strange sense, carries motion. So here's the disturbing question. Why? Why does nothing ever just stay still? Common sense tells us that motion should fade. A spinning top slows down. A wheel stops. Things calm down. So why didn't the universe calm down? Why didn't everything settle into perfect stillness long ago? We're usually given a quick answer. Something about things forming from clouds. Something about leftovers of motion. But if you think carefully, that explanation feels thin. Because spinning is everywhere, at every scale, in every direction. It's not an accident. It's a pattern. And whenever nature repeats a pattern that stubbornly, it's trying to tell you something. Now here's where we need to slow down. Because spinning is a misleading word. It makes you imagine little balls rotating like toys, but nature doesn't care about our pictures. What it really shows us is this: nothing likes being perfectly still. Perfect stillness is uncomfortable for the universe. And that should already make you uneasy, because stillness feels natural to us. We rest, we stop, we relax. But the universe doesn't. Imagine trying to balance a pencil perfectly on its tip. You can try. For a moment it almost works, but then it falls, not because you failed, but because perfect balance is fragile. Stillness is fragile. The tiniest disturbance destroys it. Now imagine the entire universe trying to stay perfectly still, one tiny asymmetry, one tiny irregularity, and motion appears. And once motion appears, something remarkable happens. It refuses to go away. Spinning is stubborn. Push something sideways, and it might stop. Push it into rotation, and it remembers. This memory of motion is everywhere. Feynman loved this idea because it's deeply unintuitive. We expect chaos to disappear. We expect motion to die. But rotation has a strange persistence, and the universe took advantage of that. Think of a figure skater pulling their arms in. They spin faster, not slower. Nothing new was added. Nothing mysterious happened. The same motion simply became harder to get rid of. Now scale that idea up, a cloud of gas slowly collapsing under its own weight. It's never perfectly symmetrical, never perfectly calm. As it shrinks, tiny motions grow stronger, not because something is pushing, but because motion once present resists being erased. So stars spin, planets spin, disks form, galaxies swirl, not because they were told to, but because the universe refuses to forget motion. And here's the unsettling part. The same idea applies at the smallest scales too. Particles don't spin because they're little balls. They spin because stillness is not allowed, not forbidden by law, but punished by cost. Perfect stillness demands perfect certainty, perfect definition, perfect control, and nature doesn't allow that. Trying to make something completely still is like trying to freeze a wave in mid-ocean. The harder you try, the more resistance you meet. So instead of stillness, reality chooses motion. Instead of silence, it chooses vibration. Instead of rest, it chooses spin. This is not chaos. It's economy. The universe always takes the cheaper option, and stillness is expensive. This changes how you see motion. Spinning is not an extra feature added later. It's the default. Stillness is the illusion, and that should make you pause, because it means the universe is not trying to settle down. It's trying to avoid impossible states, and perfect rest is one of them. So when you ask, why is everything spinning, you're really asking, why is perfect stillness forbidden? And that's a much deeper question, because once you accept that motion is unavoidable, you begin to see a pattern. Atoms spin because they can't be perfectly pinned down. Planets spin because collapse amplifies motion. Galaxies spin because the universe remembers its smallest asymmetries. Nothing ever starts clean, and nothing ever fully stops. And this leads to an uncomfortable realization. We are not living in a universe that began in order and slowly decayed into motion. We are living in a universe where motion was inevitable from the start. Stillness was never an option. And if that's true, then spinning is not noise. It's structure. It's how the universe avoids impossible precision. And now we're ready to go deeper. Because once you understand that motion protects reality from perfect certainty, you start seeing spinning not as movement, but as a kind of freedom. And that's where the story becomes truly strange. So now let's stay with this idea of motion as memory, because that's where spinning stops being a picture and starts being a principle. When something moves in a straight line, it can stop easily. A little friction, a small bump, it fades away. But rotation is different. Rotation hides its motion inside itself. A spinning wheel doesn't want to stop because stopping means every part of it must agree to stop at the same time. That coordination is expensive, and the universe avoids expensive coordination. This is why rotation shows up again and again. Think about stirring tea in a cup. You stop the spoon, but the tea keeps moving. Why? Because the motion is shared, distributed. There's no single point you can grab to shut it down. Spinning is motion that has learned how to protect itself. And now imagine the universe doing this at every scale. A collapsing cloud of matter doesn't just fall inward. Tiny sideways motions get amplified. As it shrinks, those sideways motions have fewer places to go, so they turn into rotation. Not because something decided it, but because motion resists being erased. And this is where our everyday thinking fails us. We think of motion as something added, push something, it moves, but in the universe, motion is something removed with difficulty. Stillness is not natural, stillness is enforced. So when you see planets spinning, you are not seeing leftovers of chaos. You are seeing the cheapest way reality could evolve. Now go smaller, much smaller. Inside atoms, things don't orbit like planets. That picture breaks down. But something like spin remains. Not literal spinning in space, but an intrinsic restlessness, a refusal to sit still. And again, it's not optional. Trying to make a particle completely still is like trying to ask a wave to stop being a wave. The request itself doesn't make sense. So instead of stillness, nature gives you structured motion. And this is deeply unsettling because it means motion is not caused by forces alone. It's caused by limitations. Limitations on how precisely things can be defined. Limitations on how perfectly they can be controlled. The universe is not saying everything must move. It's saying perfect stillness is too precise to exist. And once you understand that, spinning starts to look like a compromise, a way for reality to avoid impossible demands. Now let's push this idea further. Why do galaxies spin in beautiful spirals? Because collapse without rotation would require perfect alignment, perfect symmetry, perfect cancellation of motion, and perfection is unstable. The slightest imbalance breaks it. So the universe leans into imperfection. It allows rotation, and rotation organizes matter instead of destroying it. Spinning disks form. Stars ignite. Systems stabilize. Not by stopping motion, but by shaping it. This is an important lesson. Order does not come from stillness. Order comes from controlled motion. And that's a radical idea. We associate order with calm, but the universe associates order with circulation. Blood flows, air moves, planets spin, particles fluctuate, stop the motion, and structure dies. So maybe spinning is not a bug. Maybe it's the reason anything complex can exist at all. Now pause here, because this idea sneaks up on you. We often imagine the universe running down like a clock, slowing, fading. But spinning tells a different story. It says that some kinds of motion don't fade quietly. They reorganize, they persist. And this persistence is not a mystery force. It's a consequence of how hard it is to erase shared motion. And this applies even to space itself. Space is not an empty stage where things move. It participates, it allows twisting, stretching, circulation. Motion is woven into it, which brings us to a deeply uncomfortable thought. If motion is unavoidable, and stillness is impossible, then the universe is not drifting toward rest. It's drifting toward complexity. Because motion, when constrained, produces structure. Spinning atoms allow chemistry. Spinning planets allow climate. Spinning galaxies allow stars. Everything interesting requires circulation. So now the question shifts. We no longer ask, why is everything spinning? We ask, what would happen if it stopped? And the answer is, nothing would survive. No atoms, no stars, no life, no thought. Stillness is death, and the universe refuses it. This is not optimism, it's physics. And it leads us to something profoundly philosophical. If motion is built into existence itself, then change is not an accident. It's the price of being real. And now we're ready for the final step. Because once you accept that spinning is how reality avoids impossible precision, you start to see a pattern that goes beyond physics. It touches knowledge, identity, even thought. And that's where we'll go next. Now let's stop chasing explanations for a moment and just look at what this means. If everything spins because perfect stillness is impossible, then the universe is not built on rest. It's built on avoidance of exactness, avoidance of perfect certainty, avoidance of states that demand too much control. And that's a strange foundation for reality, because we're taught to admire stillness, calmness, equilibrium. But the universe doesn't admire those things. It tolerates them briefly and then escapes. Think about trying to stand perfectly still, not moving a muscle, not swaying even slightly. You can try, but you can't succeed. Tiny motions creep in, your balance shifts, your breathing interferes. Stillness demands perfection, and perfection is fragile. So the universe does what you do. It moves, not wildly, not chaotically, but just enough to stay real. And this changes how you think about motion. Spinning is not noise layered on top of reality. It's how reality protects itself from collapse. Rotation spreads things out. It shares motion. It prevents everything from piling into a single, over-defined state. In that sense, spinning is a kind of freedom. Not freedom from rules, but freedom within limits. And this idea goes much deeper than planets and particles. It tells us something unsettling about knowledge itself. The moment you try to pin something down completely, you disturb it. The harder you demand certainty, the more the system responds with motion. This is not a metaphor. It's built into how the universe behaves. Atoms spin because they can be perfectly defined. Planets spin because collapse amplifies tiny differences. Galaxies spin because symmetry never survives contact with reality. So what about us? Our thoughts are not still. Our identities are not fixed. Our ideas evolve. We are spinning systems too. And perhaps that's not a flaw. Perhaps it's the only way anything complex can exist. Feynman understood this deeply. He never trusted explanations that felt too tidy, too final, because tidy explanations often hide the truth, that the universe is not obligated to make sense to us. Physics doesn't reveal a clockwork universe quietly ticking toward rest. It reveals a restless universe, constantly negotiating what is allowed. And spinning is one of those negotiations, a way to avoid impossible precision, a way to stay alive. So when you look up at the sky and see galaxies swirling, don't think of them as cosmic accidents. Think of them as the universe refusing to be frozen. Think of them as motion saying, I will not be perfectly still. And now here's the thought I want to leave you with. If reality itself avoids perfect stillness, if existence requires motion, then certainty may be the thing that's unnatural. Maybe confusion is not a failure of understanding. Maybe it's a sign you're looking at something real. Maybe the universe doesn't want to be fully understood, only approached. And maybe spinning is its way of reminding us of that. So the next time you feel unsettled by not having a final answer, remember this. The atoms in your body are not at rest. The planet beneath you is not at rest. The galaxy carrying you is not at rest. And yet, here you are, existing. Not because things are stable, but because they are moving just enough to survive. And perhaps that's the deepest truth Feynman helped us see. That reality is not a place of stillness, but a dance that never quite stops. And the moment it does, everything disappears. Silence.